because I've lived in so many different cultures, in so many different contexts, and I've had to move and relocate so many times, I've had the experience of buying free weights and carrying them back to my apartment many, many times. And it seems like a shallow and yet profound life lesson that whenever you buy free weights, the best workout you'll ever have is when you're carrying them home. Because I've never owned a car, so I just bought 60 kilograms, 30 kilograms and 30 kilograms of free weights, and had to carry them home from the shop, one in each hand, walking the whole way. You get that weight dragging on your shoulder. Oh, it's a great workout. But probably I'll never again get as much exercise out of those free weights as I just had in buying them and taking them home. I think when I was last in Canada, I had 45 kilo. Oh, I forget what they were. I had a couple of weights that were really heavy, and I had to make 2 trips. You know, I had to go carry just one and then go back and carry just the other. Hope you guys aren't getting too much noise pollution through the window. Look, I've been saying for years and years and years, a phrase I made up, although I think many other people have said similar things. Progress is a matter of perspective. Change is an objective fact. Change is something we can measure. We can talk about it and we can debate it, sure. But the existence of change, the necessity of change, the factors driving change, and the results of change are real objective facts. Progress, like beauty, is in the eye of the beholder. You can actually see a lot of strange signs of progress in looking at this pamphlet. This is a pro-vegan propaganda pamphlet that's distributed at vegan restaurants and other institutions here in Kunming in 2016. This is a very useful form of activism. The people who made this pamphlet are definitely activists, partly because at the back of the pamphlet it actually has listings. The last few pages give you the telephone numbers and addresses of vegan restaurants, neighborhood by neighborhood. Also vegan grocery stores, ecological agencies and charities, this sort of thing. I've been involved with this sort of movement before I was vegan, back in 1998, 1999, definitely 1999. You know, ecology, issues like deforestation, the Green Party. The same questions I'm engaged with today, I was definitely already engaged with in 1999. And I have seen the changes in both Western culture and Asian culture in how these things are addressed and thought about. Starting with this right off the bat, the cover, you know, the imagery they've chosen has really changed. The focus on ecology as being, you know, what's on the cover, the you know, destruction of the urban environment, the toxification of the air we breathe, the water we drink, and so on, and the depiction of the Earth as an increasingly red and yellow globe. The title for this they've chosen is "Who Wouldn't Want Health?" But already you can see from the cover that this isn't just about the health of your body. This is about the health of the planet. This is about the destruction of our ecology. And one of the most striking changes is that you do eventually get the corny photograph of Jesus and the corny photograph of the Buddha. Sorry, it's a photograph of a painting. I don't want to mislead you guys. This is not actually not a real photograph of Jesus. You know, and the attempt to sort of construe that that veganism is somehow positively connected to these religions. But that appears on page 48 and page 49 of this pamphlet. It is almost the last thing before the listings at the very end of the book. I can tell you from experience, this type of vegan propaganda, ecological propaganda, 10, 15 years ago, this stuff, Jesus and the Buddha would have been page 1. That would have been the main point up front. And to be sure, the agencies, the activists, the political organizations creating this stuff, they would have identified as Buddhist or with one of the other new religious movements and what have you. So already there's a change. Whether or not it's progress is a matter of opinion. There is a very real change when I look at this pamphlet and compare it to even within China, within the Chinese culture. I don't just mean China as a country. Amongst, in Chinese civilization, the Sinosphere, I can see very real changes between this and where we were at just 10 years ago. Now, what do they lead with? If Jesus and the Buddha are buried basically at the back of this pamphlet, what do you think is on page 1? Protein. So there's a list of different vegan foods. So I'm sure many of you can't read Chinese, but you can see there's a table, or you may not be able to read it this tiny scale. A list of different vegan foods, how much protein and how much fat they contain compared to meat. And this very much does reflect, there's some other detailed nutritional information. Right up front, first 3 pages are all tables of nutrition facts. Very neatly, well-presented information. As you may know, black beans lead the table, but nobody in China eats black beans. Black beans being much more impressive than tofu. Health, concerns about whether or not people can be vegan are addressed in here. But health, ecology, environmental degradation, first and foremost. And questions of animal ethics and suffering are in here, but the religious or supernatural argument is pushed to the very back. So, yeah, the title is Who Wouldn't Want Health? But, of course, it's asking us much more than that. I've had a big impact on 2 of my teachers so far. A third teacher already was vegan before I got here, so I didn't have such an impact on her. But actually, no, I'm lying. I had an impact on her in a different way. So a third teacher of mine who already was vegan, she watched my video on Community with the Chinese translation, and I think that did make a big impact on her. I already had a video up talking about how with my first teacher, I communicated the concept that veganism is not just a diet. Veganism is a political struggle. I compared that to the issue with cigarette smoking. The decision for one person to quit smoking cigarettes may be just about health. Who wouldn't want health, right? But the decision that we as a culture, as a society, as a country, that we want to make progress towards having 0 smokers. We want to eliminate this from our culture, from our civilization. That's something very different, and it inevitably involves political decisions, political struggles, changes to laws, etc., etc. I had a second teacher here. All of these are conversations in Chinese, and by the way, my ability to speak Chinese is level 1. I had a second teacher here who, she's quite young. I think she's 21. And she was only my teacher for about 1 week. And she said to me in this kind of high, chirpy voice, she put on a sort of cute voice, and she said jokingly, I eat meat, but I could never kill an animal. She was saying stuff like this, and she was, trying to be cute about it. And I said back in a very low voice, very slow pace, and slow, dark tone. And it is not intentional or contrived. I was speaking very slowly and clearly because my ability to speak Chinese is so poor. I had to think through each word I was saying, what have you. But I said to her, yeah, you could. You kill animals every day without even thinking about it. Everyone who eats meat does. And if you think you couldn't kill an animal face to face, you're wrong. You could do it the same way you could kill a human being. And she was shocked at this, and she insisted that that while she eats meat, she wouldn't possibly have the heart to actually, slaughter an animal herself or kill a human being. And again, I said to her in this very sort of slow and serious tone, because I have to think through each word I'm saying in Chinese, so I'm speaking slowly, not making dramatic pauses intentionally. But, I said to her basically, sure you could. Everybody can. Everybody in this school right now is a killer, whether they know it or not. And if you study the political history of China, or you study the political history of Cambodia, or the political history of Canada or any other country, what you learn is, as soon as circumstances demand it, people resort to violence. People kill other people with no hesitation, especially the people like you, who thought they never would or never could do it. I said, every single person in this school, except me, is killing animals on a daily basis without giving it a second thought, because there is no way to eat meat without killing animals. Now again, I did not think these words would have a big impact on her. I was really just struggling to communicate at all because I'm a student. I'm just learning Chinese. But I figured out that this actually had quite a devastating effect on her. And, I didn't mean to upset her. It's interesting because with that kind of conversation, it's not like she's seeing slaughterhouse footage or anything. We're really just talking about it in the abstract. But she said some more things to me that day, within the day, not maybe at that moment, that really showed me that this conversation had a huge impact on her. And again, my other teacher, the first teacher, she had just never thought about the fact that leather requires that you kill animals. She'd never thought about it. She's smart too. She's not an idiot. She had encountered leather only as a finished product. And actually, that first teacher, she never ate eggs. She had some kind of food allergy, so she doesn't eat eggs. But she had never thought about what eggs are, how they're made, whether or not, what the biological function of an egg. She was shocked when I explained to her that, eggs are actually for a chicken to reproduce and this kind of thing. Fine. People who grow up in the city, you can be smart, you can be brilliant. First, she's an excellent teacher. Knows a lot about the history of languages and so on, but she's never given this stuff any thought. And, I think that second teacher, in a very real sense, had never thought about it. I mean, maybe she's used that cute line before, trying to be cute. And again, she's 21. Maybe every other time she says, "Oh, I eat meat every day, but I could never kill an animal." There's this thing in a lot of cultures, Western culture, Chinese culture, if someone is a good-looking female, where people just don't take what they say seriously, even when really it's a very serious matter. It's a very deadly serious matter. You say, oh, good for you. Aren't you cute? Aren't you wonderful? Aren't you bright? Aren't you charming? And, I didn't respond by saying, "Aren't you bright? Aren't you charming?" I responded by saying, "People like you kill animals every day. And when the circumstance arises, people like you kill other human beings with absolutely no hesitation." But the question she came back to me with, not that day, but in the days to follow, I think the very next day, her concern was what you see in the first few pages here. She was asking me seriously about getting enough protein in the vegan diet. And I thought she was joking or something. A guy named Dorney, give the link to Dorney's channel below here. Dorney has a video talking about that, about the importance of not giving phony nutritional advice as a vegan. And one of the things Dorney says in that video is very true. He says, just because you've heard the question 100 times, like I've heard the question about protein 100 times, that doesn't mean that the person asking the question is being insincere, because they haven't asked it 100 times. And that was really true of this teacher. I figured out after a few seconds, but it was sort of in disbelief, like, you really want to do the protein thing? And then I realized, you actually want to know about protein content in vegan food. And so I did answer a question verbally. Again, I'm speaking Chinese, which is not really a language I could speak. And I said, wait a minute. I went back to my room. I got a copy of this exact pamphlet. I brought it to her and gave it to her, and I showed her the table. I said, yeah, you can look it up. I also said to her verbally, to be honest, I said, I weigh 100 kilograms. You weigh only 50 kilograms. I get enough protein in this diet. I think you can get enough protein in this diet. But that's not the perfect answer. The perfect answer was what I did, was that I gave her that pamphlet. So look, guys, progress is a matter of perspective. Change is an objective fact. Are things better now than they were 10 years ago? Are they better here in China? Are they better in Scotland? Are they better in Germany? And so on. I think we can all say in some ways they're better, in some ways they're not. I can definitely tell you one of the things this pamphlet reflects is a loss of optimism about the Buddhist religion itself. I can remember a time when people were tremendously optimistic that Buddhism was going to play a really positive role in leading the world towards a much more ecological future. That Buddhism was going to be a major force, especially here in Asia, especially in places like Taiwan, China, but even Sri Lanka, Thailand, you name it. That Buddhism was going to be a powerful force for ecology, if not vegetarianism and veganism specifically. And this booklet, I think, really reflects the failure of Buddhism, and that optimism is now dead and gone. Now, as you know, I myself also lost my optimism about Buddhism. For me personally, I used to be a scholar of Buddhism. I used to be very much engaged in those things. That's why I can say with such confidence, I've seen equivalent pamphlets, Hong Kong, Taiwan, here in China, for many, many, many years. But I even saw them back when I was still in Canada, because within the Chinese diaspora in Canada, Chinese minority in Canada, what have you. Things change. One of the reasons why things change, why change is an objective fact, is often that they just can't stay the same. A lot of you watching this video will think that the main thing on my mind today of all days, is going to be this bizarre demi-monde of vegan gossip, of people trying to make money by making up stories about my private life, including the legal details of my divorce case, or, you know, my alleged sex life, my relations with women, or what have you. The sense in now, first of all, you know, you may not believe it, but I do really laugh at that stuff. To me, that stuff is hilarious, and it's hilarious almost all the time because I know what's true and what's false in it. The only time when it wasn't hilarious was this situation where a friend of mine was saying it, so I assumed what he was saying was true. I assumed he knew what he was talking about. I talked about that recently on the internet. But in all the other cases, I know that what these people are saying about me is nonsense. So on the one hand, I don't mind that they're building a mythology around me, and on the other hand, it's just silly and I can laugh it off, etc., etc. The sense in which it is really sad and we have to worry about how veganism is changing, it doesn't really have to do with me personally. It really has to do with the future of the vegan movement. I have no doubt that this is just a phase. Yes, people are motivated by money. They're going to continue to be motivated by money. Some things never go out of fashion, like blue jeans. I don't. I mean, I know I'm famous for criticizing the permanent vacation lifestyle. I think people will always need to go on vacation. There will always be people making vacation videos. If you want to do a review of a restaurant or a resort or a vacation destination, great, go ahead, do it. There's a totally legitimate need for that. I think human beings always want to find members of the opposite sex, sometimes the same sex. People want to find somebody to love. People want to find somebody to admire. People are interested in human beauty and health. So there will always be people on the internet wearing bikinis and presenting that aspect of human nature. I think, you know, again, it's not something that's going to go out of style. It's not something that's going to disappear. Those aspects of veganism, both digital veganism and real political veganism, they're with us forever. It's not going to go away. And I do see the positive aspects of that as well as the negative. Now, there are other things that I'm really concerned about being lacking within veganism. I've just now written a children's book in both English and Chinese. I actually wrote it first in Chinese and then translated it from Chinese into English. A children's story book, and I'm going to talk to illustrators about getting it illustrated. If you look around, it's more than zero, but it's pretty lame what's out there. If you're a parent who wants a storybook that reflects on vegan themes, vegan issues, or that talks about these things in a way that a child might relate to. And hopefully it's not just propaganda. You can't give this stuff to kids, all right? You're not going to take your kids to watch Slaughterhouse videos, I hope. But hey, some different strokes for different folks. You know, whether it's at that level of education and outreach, whether it's the community organizations, political institutions, what have you, you know, I've always said my problem is not with the shallowness of the shallow content within vegans, which is here forever. My problem is with the lack of depth in the deepest content, the lack of robustness in those political institutions, those elements. But I mean, you know, the vegan drama thing, or as it pertains to myself personally, it is going to disappear because there's nothing to say. So something you may not have noticed is still now the people who are trying to make money gossiping about me, they're recycling things from 4 months ago that they already know to be false. So, I mean, trying to treat it as if it's a new scandal or new topic of interest. More than 4 months ago, I already dealt with a totally false idea that I was trying to spark up a romance with a particular 16-year-old here on YouTube. I mean, I can say everyone knows it, unless this is the first video you've seen. The people who themselves are really maliciously spreading this lie, at this point, all of them know it, because I already had a video up addressing that before Durian Rider was aware of it, before Durian Rider had tried to capitalize on it, tried to use it to slander me. That video, you can check the stamp. The video is called Fake Diet, Real Politics. Now, I made that video partly because the whole thing was hilarious, partly because there are deeper and more interesting political issues involved. But the fact that someone like Charles or like Durian Rider, the fact that somebody would be today trying to dig that up and use it again against me, I mean, whether it's to hurt me, whether it's with malice, or whether it's just to get attention, just to try to have a scandal, when all of that was already dealt with 4 months ago. And, there were elements of it that are amusing and worth talking about 4 months ago. That already shows you that this can't last, that this situation has changed. The stuff about my divorce, I already dealt with months and months ago. Anyone who wants to know more about my divorce, it's boring. Really, nothing new has happened in my divorce in 3 years. There is no scandal. There is nothing exciting or new about it. I know that, whether or not you know it or whether or not you believe ridiculous stories that are made up. But another story. But the fact that this has already gotten into an echo chamber, this has already gotten into relying on the one hand, making up fiction, complete lies, and recycling material from the past, this already shows you that it can't last. That things have to change because they can't stay the same. And that's a very easy judgment to make, because like I say, progress is a matter of perspective. Change is an objective fact. I didn't see this change coming. I wouldn't have predicted this. The fact that I can say things have to change does not mean I have any insight whatsoever into what's going to happen next, what's happening in the future. I can tell you what I want. I can tell you that I have a dream. And one of the reasons why this doesn't depress me or upset me too much is what you could basically call the Donald Trump factor. Any scandal that I have to deal with now is a scandal I don't have to deal with 5 years from now, 5 years into the future. And so Donald Trump, very few of you will be old enough to remember that he had so many sex scandals back in the 1980s. I think in the 1980s, a long, long, long time ago. His love life used to really be in the newspapers. Now today, of course, there are all kinds of political controversies about him, but I don't see anyone saying that he's discredited because of his relationships back at that time. All those scandals were already dealt with. It bothers me. It bothers me for the same reason that I didn't like to see Durian Rider drag the name of veganism through the mud. It bothers me to see other people dragging the whole vegan cause through the mud just for the sake of short-term profit, just for the sake of a kind of notoriety and for a few $1,000s. Yes, it's sad. Yes, it's exploitative. In hip-hop terms, it's people being a culture vulture. It's people trying to make money out of the movement, out of the subculture, trying to make money out of the culture and not making a positive contribution. So, yes, it's sad and it's bad for veganism on many levels. But for me personally, I've already seen this effect. Like the first time people made allegations that there's something scandalous about my divorce or there's something scandalous about my sex life, the first time people kind of take it seriously. But there's a boy who cries wolf effect. At this point, nobody believes anything Durian Rider says. He has absolutely no credibility. And when other channels pick up his lies and recycle them, which is a large part of what happens. Oh yeah, you think I grew up a millionaire? You really? Even if other channels say it, as soon as others find out that's the source, oh, this is just rehashed from Durian Rider, nobody takes it seriously anymore. So on that side, there's a boy who cries wolf effect. And on my side, like I say, like Donald Trump, okay, if I've got to deal with this now, let's do it. Because I don't want to deal with it 5 years from now. Whoever you are watching this, look yourself in the mirror. Really think about it. 5 years from now, it's going to be 2021. What are you doing in the year 2021? I can tell you what I want you to be doing. I want you to be making a positive difference in this world as a vegan, by and for veganism. Maybe you're going to have a full-time job that leaves you very little time, but I at least want veganism to have a foundation, to have multiple foundations that are more powerful and influential than PETA is today. PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. We should be able to eclipse them. We should be able to do them. Today, we're more pathetic than the Green Party, and the Green Party is pretty pathetic. We should be able to outdo the Green Party. Our message is more important now and for the future than Mothers Against Drunk Driving. They have a fabulous organization. We should outdo Mothers Against Drunk Driving. And then those of you who are going to be too busy at a desk job or, saving the world in other ways. You may be finding a cure for cancer. You may be a scientist. You may be an architect, but you may work behind the counter at Starbucks. I may be working behind the counter at Starbucks. Believe me, the thoughts cross my mind. Maybe an overeducated Starbucks employee. It's completely possible in my future. You may be working on a submarine for the U.S. Navy. Whatever it is, I hope at an absolute minimum you can do something really positive by being engaged with robust foundations that are pursuing those goals for the vegan cause. And, irony of ironies. Oh man, I just made a video on it. That's the realest thing in the game. All right. Ultimately, none of us are out here debating our past history, and that's why I think we're open to someone who's a former criminal, someone who's a former drug addict, etc., taking on a leadership role. Something that's happened more than once. More than one former drug addict, more than one former convicted criminal has risen to prominence here in veganism, because veganism ultimately really is about the future. And it's the future I want to worry about. And this whole channel is an invitation to all of you. I hope you'll come along with me and join in the worrying.